Have you ever stopped to think if it's possible to be happy even when everything seems to go wrong, when life gets heavy and nothing turns out as you imagined? There is a kind of joy that doesn't depend on victories or material possessions. It's a true, profound calm that persists even in the darkest moments, and this doesn't happen by chance or luck. It's the fruit of ancient wisdom. Stoicism, when put into practice, teaches that happiness doesn't come from waiting for a perfect tomorrow, but from having the courage to live in the present exactly as it is. Today, I'm going to show you 10 Stoic teachings that can change your way of thinking and prove to you that it's possible to find peace in any situation, even those that previously threw you off balance. If you want to change the course of your life, you first need to change the way you see the world. Because from the moment you awaken to a new perspective, you no longer accept living tired and without meaning. So, make this video a conscious choice. Write in the comments, "Today, I choose to be happy." This simple gesture is already the first step towards awakening your inner strength. Before we begin, I only ask two things: like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, this message can reach other people who also need to remember that happiness is closer than they think. Now let's move on to the first lesson. Lesson 1. The key to your life is in your mind. The Stoics never promised you power over the world, but they showed you something even more valuable. You can control yourself. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but what we think about them." You don't choose the first emotion that arises, fear, anger, sadness, but you do choose what you do with it. You can nurture it, let it pass, repeat it, or transform it. How many times has your mind created pains that never happened? How many nights have you lost trapped in thoughts that only existed inside your head? When you don't learn to control your mind, you end up being controlled by it. Viktor Frankl, who survived concentration camps, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. Within that small interval between what happens and what we feel lies our power to choose how to react. And in that choice resides our true freedom. This space is your most precious asset. But to reach it, you need to be present and disciplined. The mind is like a garden. If you neglect it, weeds take over. But if you tend to it attentively, new ways of thinking and living sprout. When you cultivate your mind with awareness, thoughts begin to emerge that bring courage instead of fear, confidence instead of doubt. And when fear or uncertainty arise, because they always will, remember, you are not the thoughts that pass through your head. You are the one who guards the gate, who decides which ideas enter and which should leave. Lesson 2. Be generous. Have you ever noticed how a simple act can change someone's day? A smile can lighten a tough morning, a kind word can prevent giving up, and a small gesture can restore hope. Sometimes what seems insignificant to you is what sustains another person. Seneca said, "Where there is a human being, there is a chance for goodness." This means that in every encounter, there is an opportunity to spread light. But do you notice these chances, or do you pass them by distracted? Ralph Waldo Emerson said that there is no duty more important than being grateful. Generosity and gratitude go hand in hand. When you offer something of value, be it time, attention, or care, you remind yourself how much you already have. Giving is also acknowledging your own wealth. And here's the secret. Generosity transforms not only the receiver, but also the giver. Even on difficult days, when you choose to be kind, something calms down inside you. Your heart opens, your mind lightens, and suddenly you realize you can still smile, even when everything seems heavy. Happiness ceases to be something distant and becomes a direct reflection of the good you spread. So ask yourself, in the places you go, have you added or subtracted? Have you left lightness or weight? Because no one can offer what they don't cultivate within themselves. If all you feel inside is haste, anger, and coldness, that's exactly what the world perceives coming from you. But if you feel calm, attentive, and loving inside, that's what you spread around you. Generosity isn't a grand gesture made occasionally. It's an everyday choice, the decision not to become hard, not to close yourself off, not to live only for yourself. It's choosing to open your heart so that the life that passes through you also becomes lighter for others, and at the same time, lighter for yourself. Write in the comments, "Today I choose to spread kindness." Because when you spread kindness, you discover an important secret. Even when everything is difficult, the happiness you offer to the world always finds its way back to you. Lesson 3. Start being happy now. Being happy at any given moment doesn't depend on what happens to you, but on how you see yourself. It's possible to be surrounded by difficulties and still maintain peace. It's also possible to have everything you've ever wanted and still feel an emptiness inside. The difference isn't in the things around you, but in how you choose to look at them. Many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect day. They say, "I'll be happy when I meet someone special. I'll be happy when I have enough money. I'll be happy when everything is right." But that when it never arrives, because happiness doesn't reside in a distant future, it lives only in one place, the now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not live as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Destiny is already waiting for you. While you have life, while it is possible, become a good person." He reminds us that the real mistake lies not in the challenges that arise, but in the false idea that we will always have more time, that happiness can be postponed. Many centuries later, Eckhart Tolle brought the same message to the present day. The present moment is all that truly exists. Ignoring the now is the same as wasting one's own life. It's like trying to breathe tomorrow's air or recapture yesterday's breath. Impossible. Only this moment is real. Only here can joy be felt. Think about it. How many times have you been talking to someone, but your mind was elsewhere and you had to ask them to repeat what was said? How many hugs have you given without really feeling them? And now go a little deeper. How many relationships ended because someone thought they had all the time in the world? How many opportunities disappeared because you waited for the right moment that never came? How many days went by in vain because you were so busy planning to live instead of simply living? While you procrastinate, time runs out, life goes on, and happiness passes too. Living in the present isn't a technique, it's an act of love and respect for yourself. It's saying, "I am here, and I will not run away anymore. Yesterday is gone, and tomorrow doesn't yet exist. Only this breath is true, only this silence is infinite." Write in the comments, "Today I choose to live in the present." Because when you learn to truly be in this moment, you discover that peace already exists here, direction already exists, light already exists. Lesson 4. Nothing lasts forever. One of the mind's greatest illusions is believing that pain will never go away. When a love ends, when a dream crumbles, when a loved one is gone, the heart believes that this weight will never lift. It seems the wound will remain open forever, that the darkness will have no end. But everything in life changes. Nothing remains the same. Emotions, joys, sorrows, even the worst days pass. Heraclitus once said, "Nothing is permanent except change." And that's not just a pretty phrase, it's a truth about life. Suffering arises when we try to hold on to what by nature needs to follow its course. Think of your pain as a cloud. Up close, it seems enormous, heavy, endless. But if you simply observe it, without trying to grasp it, you realize it's moving, and sooner or later it dissipates. Just as night gives way to day, as the storm makes way for the sun, everything within you also passes. But there's something important. Impermanence applies not only to suffering, but also to beauty. The hug you receive today will never be the same tomorrow. The smile that warms you now lasts only a few seconds. Even the most beautiful moments disappear, and that's what makes them special. If you fight against change, you suffer twice. First from losing, then from not accepting the loss. But if you accept that everything changes, you begin to live differently. You understand that pain is temporary, but you also realize that joy cannot be postponed. Time doesn't go back, and each moment needs to be lived as if it were unique. When you feel the weight of life, remember, what hurts today may be just a memory tomorrow. What brings joy today may be longing tomorrow. Nothing is fixed, nothing is certain. So repeat to yourself, "This too shall pass." This is the phrase that liberates. Pain is temporary, but its strength is lasting. Beauty fades, but gratitude for it can remain forever. Lesson 5. Deep down, we're all looking for the same thing, to be happy. Behind every human action, even the most wrong ones, lies a hidden desire. The desire to end one's own pain, to find a little peace. Even those who err, even those who hurt others, are simply trying, in a confused way, to alleviate the suffering they feel. This doesn't mean that wrong actions are right, but it helps us to see things with greater understanding. Seneca said, "To err is human, to persist in error is diabolical." He wasn't just talking about correcting mistakes, but about understanding that error is born from a soul in conflict, lost within its own darkness. Centuries later, Dostoevsky wrote, "Man is unhappy because he doesn't know that he is happy. This is humanity's great blindness, looking outside for what is already inside." Think about it. How many of your wounds came from people who were trying to deal with their own pain? A father who made mistakes in teaching because he didn't know how to deal with his fears. A friend who drifted away, not for lack of affection, but because of their own insecurity. Someone who hurt you with words, not because you deserved it, but because they carried unhealed resentments. When you begin to see things this way, something inside you changes. Before reacting with anger, you remember, just as I want to be happy, every being desires the same. Having compassion is not being weak, it's having strength. It's seeing the soul behind the pain. It's understanding without becoming cold. And the beautiful thing about it is that when you learn to see beyond the wounds of others, you free not only them from judgment, but yourself from the weight of resentment. Compassion creates space for your soul to breathe. And that's where true happiness is born, from the relief of not living trapped by hatred. So start changing the way you look at the world, and to mark this new beginning, write in the comments, "I choose to look with compassion." This is the gesture that frees your heart from the weight of resentment. Lesson 6. Your life only changes when you change first. Everyone desires a better world, more genuine relationships, and a more just life. But few have the courage to begin the change within themselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." This phrase is like a mirror. Everything you cultivate within your heart ends up reflecting in the world outside. If despair, anger, and impatience reside within you, that is what the world will give back to you. But if you cultivate clarity, discipline, and calm, even difficult moments become gentler, because you stop fighting against everything all the time. Centuries later, Tolstoy brought the same truth to light. In other words, the change we want to see in the world begins within ourselves. Everyone talks about changing the world, but almost no one thinks about changing themselves. And that's the real point. It's easy to see the mistakes of others, to complain about the government, fate, or luck. But it's difficult to look in the mirror and realize that change begins within, in the way you think, react, and choose to live. How many times have you blamed your job, your partner, or your family, believing that you would only be happy if they changed? But even when everything around you changes, the dissatisfaction returns, because the problem isn't just out there, it also lives inside you in the way you choose to see and act. When you heal something within yourself, you also heal a part of the world. When you choose silence over shouting, you spread calm around you. When you live truthfully, you inspire others to do the same. This is the silent power of inner change. It grows like waves on a lake, reaching places you can't even imagine. So ask yourself, what have you been hoping to change out there, but that should begin within you? Every small choice has an echo, and that echo transforms into direction, into destiny, into history. Often it's not the world that needs to change, but the way you perceive it. It's about waking up a little earlier and changing the rhythm of your day. It's about deciding to listen instead of reacting with anger. It's about taking a courageous step when everything inside you is telling you to give up. These gestures are like stones thrown into water. They create waves that spread far beyond the moment they begin. Choose to start the transformation within yourself. This is the commitment that breaks the cycle of waiting, that stops you from blaming everything around you, and returns control of your life to your own hands. Because being happy in any situation doesn't depend on living in a perfect world. It depends on stopping waiting for everything to change on its own and having the courage to change yourself first. When you do that, you discover a profound truth. No matter what's happening outside, you will always have within you the strength to start over, to find peace, and to create a new path. Lesson 7. Your mind creates your peace. We live in a world that constantly pushes us outward. More success, more recognition, more achievements. It's as if happiness is always hidden somewhere far away. But the truth is simple. If you don't find peace within yourself, you won't find it anywhere outside. How many times have you thought, "I'll only be okay when my house is quiet," or "I'll only rest when I solve my financial problems," or even, "I'll only relax when everyone understands me"? But that moment almost never comes. And when it does, it doesn't last long. Because if your peace depends on what happens outside of you, it will always be weak, always unstable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." In other words, it's not where you are that defines your peace, but how you manage your mind. And Gandhi added, "True peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to deal with it." Don't wait for life to be perfect before you breathe. Life will never be completely silent, but you can learn to be the silence amidst the noise. Think about how many times you've lost your temper over something small, traffic, criticism, an unexpected bill, and let it ruin your day. Or how many times an angry person has taken away your peace, as if they had power over your mood. This is when everything becomes clear. When your peace depends on the world, any detail can destroy it. Think of the ocean. The surface may be turbulent, but in the depths there is calm. The sea doesn't cease to be the sea because of the waves, and you don't need to lose your essence because of problems either. When you learn to find solace in your inner silence, you discover something that no one can steal. Your peace becomes a protected, untouchable space. And it is precisely there that the freedom to be happy in any situation is born, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed the way you are in it. Lesson 8. Those who cling suffer. You don't suffer because something ended. You suffer because you believe it should last forever. Attachment is not love. Love is born from freedom. Attachment is born from fear. Fear of losing, fear of being alone, fear of not knowing how to live without that person or that situation you thought you needed to be happy. Epictetus taught, "Do not wish that things happen as you wish that they happen as they ought to happen, and your life will be peaceful." This phrase reveals a hidden poison that corrodes from within, the desire to control everything. The more you try to force life to follow the script you've created in your head, the more fragile you become. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The more force you use, the faster it slips through your fingers. That's where Khalil Gibran poetically concludes, "If you love someone, set them free. If they return, they are yours. If they don't return, they never were." Loving without attachment isn't being cold, it's being courageous. It's trusting that what is true doesn't need chains, because real love doesn't depend on control, but on the freedom to choose to stay. But attachment doesn't only appear in people, it also resides in the feelings you insist on holding on to. The resentment you repeat like a broken record, the bitterness that has become part of your identity, that bitter memory you use as an excuse not to move on. While you cling to this, it's like carrying a backpack full of stones. You can walk, but you're always tired, always heavy. Think honestly. What are you holding on to for fear of losing it? A relationship that's already over, but you still pretend it's still alive? An ideal of who you believed you should be? Or that old resentment you protect as if it were part of who you are? Attachment suffocates. It transforms love into demands, memories into prison, care into dependence. Detachment, on the other hand, is not a lack of feeling, it's maturity. It's about stopping the fight against life and allowing the present to be lighter than the past. Write in the comments, "I choose to let go." This small gesture is the beginning of a great change. Your mind awakens, your energy is renewed, and little by little the world begins to open up new paths. But there's something important to understand. If you've been trying for a long time to step out of your comfort zone and learn more, but haven't been able to, there might be something you're not aware of. I know what it might be. Anxiety. Anxiety is like a snake that creeps up silently and affects you without you even realizing it. It leaves you feeling unwell for days, months, and even years. Living like this is like being sick all the time. But I know a solution. Stoic philosophers, along with modern psychology, have a way to help you get rid of it. I managed to cure myself of this anxiety. I made a video explaining how you can get rid of this problem, and it's in the first comment. Click the link in the first comment and start healing yourself from this feeling of anxiety. Lesson 9. Practice gratitude every day. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, began by giving thanks. He thanked his mother for her kindness, his teachers for their good examples, and even the people who hurt him, because each of them brought some kind of lesson. For him, gratitude was not a feeling that came and went, but a daily habit of clarity and humility. Seneca also said that nothing is nobler than being grateful. Today, even science confirms this. Researchers like Robert Emmons have shown that practicing gratitude helps reduce anxiety, increases well-being, and brings more lasting happiness. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. At first, it may seem too simple to be grateful for a warm cup of coffee, for a smile on the street, for the bed that welcomes you at night, or simply for the fact that you can breathe now. But over time, this habit changes your mind. You stop thinking about what's missing and start seeing everything you already have. And that's exactly where the transformation happens. Those who don't cultivate gratitude always feel that something is missing, even when they have a lot. They live chasing the next goal, the next prize, the next moment, and never feel satisfied. It's like someone who wins many times but never celebrates because they're already worried about the next achievement. This is the emptiness of those who live without gratitude. Nothing is enough. Nothing completes them. Those who practice gratitude, however, learn to value what they already have. They understand that happiness isn't just in great victories, but also in simple moments. The smell of coffee, a good conversation, an unexpected hug, or the courage to start over after a difficult day. And surprisingly, you begin to find joy even in difficult situations, because you realize that there is always something worth being grateful for. The health you still have, the friendship that remains strong, the lesson learned from loss, or simply the chance to try again. Gratitude completely changes the way you see life. It shows that there is no perfect life, only present life. That there is no happiness in later, but rather in now, in the moment you decide to recognize what you already have. This is where everything changes. Happiness ceases to be something distant and becomes a reflection of your worldview. It doesn't arise from wanting more, but from perceiving what already exists. And the more you are grateful, the more joy grows within you. Because gratitude is the fertile ground where happiness flourishes, and it's also the secret to being happy in any situation. Lesson 10. Make patience your long-term strategy. Most people give up not because they are weak, but because they have learned to expect results too quickly. We live in a time that glorifies immediacy. Everything needs to happen now, success now, change now, healing now. As if life were a button you press and presto, everything transforms. But the truth is different. The deepest, most beautiful and most solid things in existence need time, and only those who have patience remain until they see what they planted flourish. Patience is not passivity. It is strength. It's emotional discipline. It's the ability to keep walking even when nothing seems to be happening. Marcus Aurelius said that everything in nature happens at the right time. Trees don't grow hastily. The river doesn't rush. The sun doesn't rise too early. Nature teaches a rhythm we've forgotten, the rhythm of ripening. When you rush, you harvest unripe fruit. When you respect time, you harvest what is true. Many times you feel like you're standing still, but inside, something is forming. The mind is maturing, the heart is healing, the spirit is strengthening. Just because you don't see change on the outside doesn't mean the transformation isn't happening. Patience is the soil where constancy takes root. Think about how many times you started something full of motivation, but gave up halfway through because the results were slow in coming. How many opportunities could you be experiencing today if you had persevered a little longer? The difference between those who achieve and those who only dream is usually not talent, intelligence, or luck. It's the ability to persevere. Patience gives you power because it destroys the anxiety that consumes your energy before victory arrives. When you learn to wait without giving up, time starts working in your favor. But patience doesn't mean standing still waiting for life to happen. It means acting every day, even slowly, trusting that the result will come at the right time. It's continuing to write when no one is reading, continuing to train when no one is watching, continuing to plant when the soil seems dry. Time is like a silent lever. When you persevere, it multiplies your efforts. When you give up, it becomes a weight that crushes you. Patience also protects your heart. It prevents you from making impulsive decisions. It prevents you from throwing away what you're building because of a moment of frustration. She teaches you to breathe, observe, understand, and move forward with confidence, not despair. Impatience breeds haste, and haste breeds mistakes. Patience creates depth, and depth sustains all that is true. Perhaps you're not where you want to be yet, but it's not where it used to be anymore either. There is progress here, even if it's still invisible. Trust the process. Life has a rhythm, and it is a wise one. Nothing that is real blossoms overnight. Love takes time. Character takes time to develop. Mastery takes time. Healing takes time. Self-development takes time. Today, you don't need to take giant leaps. You just need to stay. To solidify this within yourself, write in the comments, "I choose to continue." Because true victory doesn't come when you accelerate. It arrives when you don't give up. Lesson 11. Embrace your emotions without becoming a prisoner of them. There are days when your heart feels heavy in a way you can't explain. A mixture of tiredness, fear, expectation, and accumulated silence in your chest. The world looks at you and expects firmness, expects control, expects you to know what you're doing. But inside, sometimes all that exists is a knot. And that's okay. Feeling isn't weakness. Feeling is human. The problem has never been feeling too much, but rather believing that you are obligated to be dragged along by the emotions that arise within you. The Stoics never told you not to feel. The idea was never to become stone, dry, cold, or indifferent. The proposal is to learn to recognize what happens in your heart without surrendering your life to it. Emotion is a visitor, not a king. It can enter, but it cannot take the throne. It can sit at the table, but it shouldn't hold the reins of your life. When you understand this, you discover a strength that is not noise, but presence. A calmness that doesn't come from the absence of pain, but from the ability to go through it without losing yourself. Think about when anger arrives. It comes like a strong wave demanding an immediate reaction, a quick word, a cut, an attack, a defense. If you respond in the heat of the moment, you regret it later. Now imagine observing that same anger from a step away. You feel it, acknowledge it, breathe, and let the wave lose strength before acting. The emotion passes, but your choice remains. That is true control. It's not suppression, it's transformation. Sadness works the same way. When it arises, many try to run away from it, distract themselves, hide behind laughter or busyness. But ignored sadness grows and returns heavier. When you embrace it, it dissolves. You look at it as one observes a cloud that doesn't force the sky to cease being sky. There is pain, but there is space around it. There is presence. There is ground. There is breath. It is in this space that consciousness is born. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes what it feeds. If you feed anxiety with panic, it grows. If you feed anger with more anger, it becomes a prison. But if you feed any emotion with awareness, it transforms. Because no emotion is an enemy. They are signs. Bells ringing to remind you of where there is still something unresolved within you. When fear appears, it's not telling you to stop. It's saying there's something important there. When insecurity shines, it doesn't say you're weak. It points to where you need to strengthen yourself. So start practicing something simple, feeling without surrendering. When something touches you too deeply, stop and breathe. Bring your body to the moment. Put your feet on the ground. Feel the air going in and out. Observe what is alive inside. Name the emotion: anger, fear, longing, tiredness, exhaustion. When you name it, you take back control. You say to yourself, I am feeling this, but this is not all that I am. To welcome is to look directly at someone. To welcome is to say, I feel, but I move on. To welcome is to allow the heart to speak without letting it shout in your place. To welcome is to remember that no emotion is permanent. Just as night finds dawn, everything moves, everything passes. Emotion comes as a visitor, but you are the home. Emotion arises like wind, but you are the mountain. Emotion rises like a wave, but you are the entire ocean. Write in the comments to solidify this truth within yourself. I feel, but I continue. Because whoever feels and still remains builds a peace that depends on nothing more than their own presence. Lesson 12. Return to your body when your mind tries to take over. The mind is powerful, but it's also restless. It creates stories, scenarios, fears, doubts, imaginary futures, and pasts that repeat themselves like endless echoes. And when you let yourself be carried away by it unconsciously, it's like being swept away by a rushing river. You lose your footing, you lose your breath, you lose the present moment. That's why so many feel anxiety, confusion, disorientation, or a constant feeling of being out of it. Because in fact, they are. They are living in their heads, not in their bodies. The Stoics understood something that science only proved centuries later. The mind calms down when the body returns to the present. Marcus Aurelius, in his writings, frequently spoke about the importance of anchoring oneself in the here and now to regain clarity. Today, we call this regulation of the nervous system. These are different names for the same truth. When the mind races, it is the body that needs to bring you back. Think about how you feel when you're anxious. Your heart races, your chest tightens, your breath becomes short, your head feels overwhelming. Everything seems urgent, as if something terrible is about to happen. The mind creates the alarm, but it's the body that sounds the siren. And when you try to fight thoughts with more thoughts, you only reinforce the chaos. You enter into internal debate, try to explain, justify, control, and the result is more confusion, more noise, more aimless running. That's why the solution isn't to think better, it's to feel the body. It's to return to the physical. It's to descend from the mind to the ground, because the body is always in the present, while the mind can be anywhere but here. When your mind takes over, do this. Stop for a moment. Feel your breath. Don't try to adjust. Don't try to control. Just observe. So bring attention to your feet. Feel the contact with the ground. Be aware of your body's weight. Feel your spine, your shoulders, your face. It's simple, almost subtle, but this gesture has immense power. You regain control of your own body. It comes back to life within itself. Return to being a presence, not noise. Zen monks call this returning home. Not an external house, but the inner house, the body. The body is where the mind rests. When a difficult thought arises, don't try to push it away. Observe how it manifests in the body. Where does it tighten? Where does it throb? Where does it get tense? When you feel instead of resisting, thought loses its power. Because what dominates you is not what you feel, but what you run away from feeling. How many times have you made decisions in the heat of the moment and then regretted them? How many times have you reacted before reflecting, creating more pain than solutions? How many times have you tried to solve your anxiety by planning more, calculating more, controlling more, and everything only got worse? The solution was never about thinking more. It has always been about feeling clearly. When you return to your body, your mind slows down. The heart finds its rhythm. Breathing deepens. The vision expands, presence returns. Only then can you see reality as it is, without exaggeration, without distortion, without inflated fear. Breathe. Feel it. Go back inside. This is the way. Write in the comments to solidify this within yourself. Today I return to my body, because when you dwell within yourself, no thought can drag you down. You stop being a storm and become the sky again. Lesson 13. Choose to act with presence, not automatically. Much of your life can be lived without you truly being present. You wake up, get up, do everything you need to do, talk, answer messages, complete tasks, but inside, you remain distant, disconnected, almost absent, as if you were going through the days with the feeling that something is missing, even without knowing what it is. This happens because you are living on autopilot. Your body is here, but your mind is scattered among memories of the past, expectations of the future, and repetitive thoughts. The Stoics understood this deeply. For them, true life exists only in the instant you are able to perceive attentively. It's not the time that passes that matters, but how you experience time. Marcus Aurelius said that man becomes so distracted by everything around him that he forgets to live in the present moment. He observes the whole world, but forgets to observe himself. When you act on autopilot, you don't choose, you react. You react to the moods of others, to external noise, to demands, to pressures, to old emotions that repeat themselves without question. Life becomes repetitive. You become predictable even to yourself. And when that happens, existence loses its flavor. Everything becomes the same. Everything becomes gray. Acting with presence is different. Acting with presence means being fully present in every action, even the simplest ones. It's feeling the ground when you walk, listening completely when someone speaks, breathing intentionally before responding. It's eating without rushing, looking into someone's eyes when you talk, being where your feet are. Presence is not a distant spiritual concept. It's the most concrete practice that exists. It's the art of living here. Think about how many times you've talked to someone while your mind was elsewhere, or how many times you've done a task without realizing you were doing it, or when you ate and, after finishing, didn't even remember the taste. That's not living. That's just moving around. When you learn to act with presence, things change. The conversation gains depth, breathing calms down, the heart slows down, the mind finds space, life regains its texture, color, and meaning. Presence is an antidote to anxiety, because anxiety is always an escape into the future, and presence is always a return to the now. There's no need to transform everything at once. Start with the next simple step. When drinking water, just drink water. Feel the temperature, the taste, your body receiving it. When you're walking, just walk. Notice the air, the pace, the rhythm. When someone is speaking, really listen. Don't plan your response, just listen. These small gestures change the way the world appears to you. You start to feel alive again. Seneca said that life is long enough when lived deeply. It's not more time you need, it's more presence. To act with presence is to choose to live awake. It's deciding that you're no longer going to spend your days asleep on the inside. It's about regaining your ability to feel, observe, and direct your energy toward what matters. So, practice now. As you read these words, take a deeper breath. Feel your body. Feel the air going in and out. Feel the weight of life unfolding here. Write in the comments to solidify this choice within yourself. Today, I choose to be present. Because when you live with presence, you don't just go through the day, you inhabit it. And whoever inhabits their own day inhabits their own life. Lesson 14. Make the simple sacred. There is strength in the essential. We live in a time when everything seems to need to be grand to have value. Society has convinced us that happiness is something distant, that it only arrives when we achieve something extraordinary, a great love, lots of money, recognition, success. But the truth is much simpler and at the same time more profound. Real life happens in the details you've learned to ignore. Simplicity is not the same as insignificance. Simplicity is fundamental. The Stoics understood this clearly. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, found peace in the most basic actions, in waking up early, writing, walking, observing the sky. For him, life didn't need to be full of spectacle to be fulfilling. Greatness lay precisely in doing the essential things with presence, care, and purpose. Today, however, we are taught to despise simplicity. We want quick results, intense emotions, immediate recognition, and without realizing it, we drift away from the foundation that sustains everything. Simplicity is where the soul resides. This is where life breathes. It's where you truly find yourself. Enjoying a coffee calmly at dawn, make your bed as if you were organizing your spirit. Pray, meditate, or breathe for 3 minutes before starting your day. Eat slowly, savoring the flavor. To hug someone without rushing. These small actions are not trivial, they anchor your life. When you lose the simple things, you lose the meaning. When you reclaim the simple, you reclaim the center. What is essential is what remains when everything else falls apart. The relentless pursuit of excess creates anxiety, noise, comparison, and burden. The search for what is essential creates balance, clarity, and inner strength. Seneca taught that the wise person lives with little, not because they cannot have more, but because they have learned not to be a slave to what is unnecessary. And that is one of the greatest freedoms a human being can achieve, needing little to be at peace. To make the simple sacred is to turn small gestures into a declaration of presence. It's about acting carefully, even when no one is watching. It's about putting love into everyday things, because it's in the everyday that your life happens, not in the grand moments you imagine. Think about it now. What have you been ignoring because you thought it was too small? A conversation during a walk, the aroma of hot tea, silence before bed, the sunset you don't even look at anymore. These moments are gateways to return, portals that remind you that you are alive now, and that life doesn't need to be extraordinary to be profound. It needs to be felt. Making the simple sacred is an inner stance. It's about looking at what sustains you and deciding, does this matter? Today, choose to honor what is essential. Make a corner of your house. Turn off notifications that drain your attention. Walk without headphones, just listening to life. Breathe calmly and observe your body's rhythm. Do less, but do it with authenticity. Remember, strength isn't about having everything. It's about taking care of what truly matters. To affirm this choice within yourself, write in the comments, "Today I choose what is essential," because when you embrace simplicity, life stops being a rush and becomes about being present again. It becomes light again. It's yours again. Lesson 15. Life holds treasures in the places where you only see challenges. When we are in the midst of a storm, it's hard to believe that something good can come from it. The rain soaks everything, causes fear, seems to destroy. But when it passes, we realize that the same water that frightened us is the one that penetrates the earth, nourishes the soil, and gives strength for the seeds to flourish. Difficulties are the same. At first, they seem like only pain, but behind them lies the chance to grow deeper and create something new. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path itself." This phrase shows what true inner strength is. What seems like a blockage today may be precisely the fertile ground that will sustain your evolution tomorrow. The problem is not the barrier itself, but the way you choose to cross it. Napoleon Hill said the same thing in another way. In every difficulty lies the seed of an equal benefit. And this isn't just a pretty phrase, it's a pattern of life. Failure can be the push that awakens your courage. Rejection can open the way for something much better. A loss can reveal strengths you didn't even know you had. Think honestly, how many times has something that seemed like the end turned out to be a new beginning? A lost job that actually freed you to pursue a truer dream. A relationship that ended but paved the way for a rediscovery of yourself. Or a personal crisis that silently prepared your mind to live with more clarity, calm, and depth. The pain you experience isn't just a wound, it's a calling. A calling to change, to reinvent yourself, to flourish in a way you don't even know yet. And every time you accept that calling, the pain ceases to be just suffering and becomes a firm foundation. Because it's precisely under pressure that your true essence emerges. It is the storm that makes your roots grow deeper. It is the weight that strengthens your structure. It is the challenge that awakens a courage you didn't even know you had. Difficulties don't come to destroy, but to cleanse what is false and reveal what is true. They make us look inward, discover hidden strengths, and understand that life is not made only of easy victories, but also of silent struggles that shape who we are inside. Every obstacle may seem heavy and impossible at first, but when you face it with courage, it becomes the firm ground that supports your future. It is in the storm that your roots learn to hold on. It is under the weight that your essence becomes stronger. And it is in this often difficult process that true happiness begins to be born, not as something fragile that depends on luck, but as a stable force that comes from within you. Write in the comments as a sign of trust, "I choose to transform my pain into strength," because this gesture shows that you have decided not to live as a victim of difficulties, but as someone who uses each one of them as a stepping stone to grow, flourish, and be happy in any situation. Thank you for staying until the end. If this video helped you see things differently, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Here we continue side by side, learning, growing, and building inner strength.